This part of the world is a very old, has got very ancient societies. There were the BATEMBUZI who were here. When there was a group called BATEMBUZI who were ruling this area. Then around 900 AD or thereabout, we got BACHWEZI, who came and started managing here. Now, those BACHWEZI had sort of united us. We know about the 900 AD because of the excavation works done at Ntutsi in Zimbabwe and Bigobyamjini. Bigobyamjini is also in Zimbabwe. The archaeologists were able to confirm that those settlements were from 900 AD to about 1350 AD. Unfortunately, that BACHWEZI dynasty, the BACHWEZI, you can know them from their names, from oral history, but also from the names. That's why you find those BACHWEZI names all over the place. In Uganda, in Bunyoro, Ankole, Congo, Tanzania, Bukoba, Karagwe, those names, you will find them there. Names like Isimbwa. Baganda called him Simbwa, but it is the same thing. That was Mchwezi. Then you have like Ndahora. Baganda called him Ndaula. Then you have Mukasa. Mukasa, the Western groups, Banyoro, Banyankwere, called Mukasa Mugasha. Mugasha is the same as Mukasa. Then you have Wamara. You have Chomia. You have Kagoro. All those were BACHWEZI. But when their dynasty collapsed around 1400, we don't know why, we have not studied why it collapsed, because it had really united this area. Even what is Ankole now, Bunyoro, Toro, Acholi, Buchiri. Buchiri language is called Buchiri, according to our history. These were Busoga, they were all being managed together that time by the BACHWEZI. Wamara was the last Mchwezi. Wamara, Rhanja, and Bunga. That's how they were his praise names. Now, after that dynasty, then you had these groups which came later. The ones we talk about now, the Kawakas here in Uganda, the Bavito in Bunyoro Toro, these groups in Ankole, Abahinda, Ankole, Karagwe, all those Tanzania, those were the Bahinda group. And then the Bashambo from Pororo and Rwanda. So these smaller groups, when they came, they divided the people. And they started fighting among themselves. they started fighting. Wars between Buganda and Bunyoro, Buganda, Nkore, and so on. Rwanda with the Nkore and Pororo. So that period from 1400 to the time when the Europeans came was time of lack of peace. Lack of peace. And when the Europeans came, of course, these kings were not very clever, because you are teachers. You know a bit, you must know about history. But one reason I cannot forgive these kings is the bankruptcy in their perception. Because, okay, even if you didn't know that unity was crucial when you were by yourselves, but you who study the history of the world, you know that in 1498, a Portuguese man called Vasco da Gama went around the continent of Africa because there's also another story there. You have got your religious people, like Reverend Barinda, who blessed us today, and even you others who are not so religious. You must have heard of the book of the Acts of the Apostles. If you read the book of the Acts of the Apostles, you will find there the journeys of St. Paul. St. Paul, when he was going to spread the gospel, he was going through a country called Asia Minor. Asia Minor. Do we have history teachers here? There are some history people here. Okay, let me see one of them. Come forward. Come. Microphone. Did you hear of Asia Minor?
Yes, Your Excellency.
Where is it?
Asia Minor is in Eastern Europe, Your Excellency.
Is where?
Eastern Europe.
Istanbul. Is Eastern Europe?
Yes, Your Excellency.
Eastern Europe. Yeah, in a way, yes, but where exactly? Another historian who can help him?
Your Excellency, Asia Minor is in the current country of Turkey.
Turkey, yes, very good. Aveo, head teacher. Who are you? Introduce yourself. And the other one who had come to help me, introduce yourselves.
My name is Karohogo Yafes Ntungwa, the head teacher at Chabenda SS in the Kamwenje district. Chabenda SS.
Chabenda Ntungwa.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. My name is Sechiziv Hamza. I'm the teacher of Highways Chiganda and the coordinator for Patriotism Kasanda District Secretariat. Thank you so much.
Amanya?
Sechiziv Hamza.
Sechiziv Hamza.
Yes, sir.
Very good. So, Ntungwa has helped us. What was being called Asia Minor in the book of the Acts of the Apostles, where places like Ephesus, you remember Ephesus? Ephesus, Galatia, and those places where they are, is now Turkey. And then in the book of the Acts of the Apostles, you will get places like Corinth. Then you get places like Thessalonica and so on. Those are now in Greece. So St. Paul was going through those areas. Now at that area, at that time, those areas were occupied by different people. In fact, even me, I have not found out which people were there. Were they Greeks? Were they, what sort of people were there? But what happened is that in 1453 AD, a new group of people came from Central Asia and captured that area. And these people who came were Muslims and Turkish. So when they captured it was called, the main city there was called Constantinople. But it is now called Istanbul, Turkey. So when they captured it, you remember in your history, there was another pharaoh called Marco Polo. Did you hear of that pharaoh? That Marco Polo was somebody, I think he was from Italy. He had walked on foot up to China and back and opened a trade route, which you hear the president of China now referring to as the Silk Road, the road along which silk was being transported from the east to the west, and spices. So the Europeans had come to depend on that route. So when the Turkish captured Constantinople, they blocked that route. So the Europeans could not go to Eastern Europe. That's how they started looking for another way to Eastern Europe without going through Istanbul. And there was the huge continent of Africa in the middle. They were now looking for a sea route to the east. This effort was led by the Portuguese, who arrived at what is now Sierra Leone around 1472. By 1482, a Portuguese man called Diego Cama, a Portuguese man called Diego Cama, got to where Angola is now. 1487, another Portuguese man called Bartholomew Diaz got to Cape Town, Cape of Good Hope. That's why he called it the Cape of Good Hope, because he saw, you know, Africa is so huge. It is from latitude, I think, 37 north up to latitude 30-something south. To cover the whole length of it, you go through almost 80 latitudes. You, the teachers of geography, you know latitudes and longitudes. So Bartholomew Diaz in 1487 was able to see that the coast of Africa appeared to be turning east, because all the time it was north-south, and south-south. Africa erugwayodi. Now, in 1487, Bartholomew Diaz saw the coast turning east. That's why he called Cape Town the Cape of Good Hope. The hope to go around Africa by sea. Now, in 1498, on Christmas Day, another Portuguese man called Vasco da Gama went around the Cape of South Africa and landed at a place called Natal. Natal is from a Latin word meaning to be born, nativity, because you were there on Christmas Day. Now, this is where I have a problem with the kings. You kings, you are busy fomenting wars among us, between Bunyoro and Buganda, Buganda and Bunyoro, Buganda and Ankole, Ankole and Rwanda. You are doing that. Maybe you are doing it because you are ignorant. You didn't know the wider world. But after Vasco da Gama, because when he went around the South African coast, he came through the East African coast, attacked Mombasa, and went on to India. So, information was coming from the coast that, you know, there are new, strong people who are coming. Bazungu are coming. These people were called Bazungu from Swahili, because when they go to the East African coast, the people there asked them, where are you going? And they said, tunazunguka. We are going round. Then those people said, these are Bazungu. Kuzunguka in Swahili means to go round. So, even if you are ignorant, but you now hear that new people have come, why would you not get common sense and say, let us get together? You Nkole, you Bunyoro, you Buganda, you Rwanda, instead of fighting, let's get together and prepare ourselves. But no, they were not interested. They were busy fighting among themselves. You can check from 1498, when Vasco da Gama passed by the East African coast, to 1862, when the first white man came here. I had calculated some time ago, I think it is like 370 years. You can calculate it. How many years from 1498 to 1862, when Huntington Speke came here? It is 307, almost 400 years. Danger is coming. You are hearing about it, but you are doing nothing about it. So, the Europeans came and conquered this whole place. I think you must have studied this in the political history. By 1900, the whole of Africa had been colonized. And when they came, they had now, because between 1400 and 1900, we had the problem of the kings making us fight among ourselves instead of uniting us. When the Europeans came and conquered them, they came and captured them like grasshoppers because they were busy fighting one another. They tried to fight, but it was too late. Kabarega, Mwanga, and even the other kings in South Africa, they tried, they couldn't, because they had divided our people. They talk about technology, but technology of the European that time was not really very advanced. In Ethiopia, the Ethiopian king Menelik defeated the Italians. In 1896, he defeated them. So if they had been united and more organized, even with spears and arrows, they could have defeated those guns, because the guns of that time were not that efficient. So the main problem was division. And if you see, the army which captured Kabarega was not a European army. Europeans were very few. It was Baganda being used by the British who were doing most of the work. It was African on African fight. It was the Europeans were just the mobilizers. So therefore, between 1400 and 1900, you have the problem of the tribalism fomented by the kings. Now, when the Europeans capture the whole of Africa, they now bring a new poison, the poison of religious conflict. Because you people who have studied history, European history, you know the problems of Europe. The religious conflicts there, Catholics, Protestants, fighting in what they were calling the 30 Years' War, the war with the Muslims, the Crusades. So now we had the poison of the kings making us fight along tribal lines and clan lines and so on. Now you had a new poison of religious conflict. You can imagine, you can check this on your phones. The first Church of Uganda people came here in 1877. The Catholic, Roman Catholic group came 1879. By 1890, our people were fighting religious wars. Can you imagine? In 10 years. But I'm so good because of religion. You, of 10 years, you don't even know what it means. You had start fighting among yourselves. So that problem also was now added. So you had now two problems. You had sectarianism of tribes, which the kings had left, and now you had additional sectarianism of religious groups. And that's how, and in the colonial times, the two poisons were there. That's how now the NRM comes on the scene. In the 1860s, early 60s, as a student group. So when we come, we say, what Kisembo was telling you here, that one of the topics you covered was forces that cause social change. And this is what I want you really to get very clearly. What are the forces that cause social change? How does society come to change from one level to another level? And this one you study in a study we call political economy. Not politics, not history, not sociology, but what political economy. Political economy is the study of the laws that govern the motion and changes in society. And when you do that, things will be much easier for you. Now, when we studied political economy of the human race, because the human race, remember, has been here for 4.5 million years. We have been here for 4.5 million years. And the human being started here in Africa. Now, the human being is the main agent of change in society. Why? Because the human being has got three characteristics from other creatures. He has got a superior brain, a brain which thinks and reasons. He has got a hand which works, which can hold things and tools. And he stands on two legs. He's bipedal. He's not like the reptile whose head is always in the grass. If your head is in the grass, when do you have time to think and see far? So the human being, and here you link with the Bible. That's why for us we say, those who say there's a difference between the story of science and the Bible story, is not true. Because even in the book of Genesis, which Barinda was quoting, it says that God created man on Saturday, after he had created all those insects and frogs and all those, and he told man, establish dominion over nature. Meaning man is the one to influence the rest and manage the rest of the creatures. So because of that, man was facing now one problem. He was created, he was here, or he had evolved, and but he was facing a lot of problems: floods, drought, disease, wild animals. All these were problems to man. But because of his ability to think and to do things, he was able to develop tools, quickly develop tools. Initially, stone tools. If you go there in the villages, you ask me, because me, I am an ancient person of this area. If you go in the villages, you will find the tools there. Orubengo, that's a stone tool. Orubengo, a grinding stone. A seiso is a stone tool. The other small one, we don't even have them in English. Enkurungu, yokonda, the one for crushing things. Eshekuru, the one of a wooden mortar. Omuhini, the one for shekura. Echuzo, the one for threshing. You can mention Ichuba for watering cows. So, the ability of man to make tools and use tools to do work is what eventually made man to improve his way of life. Now, 1.5 million years ago, man invents fire. You can imagine from 4.5 million years ago, up to 1.5 million years ago, there's some different dates, but it was the wrong time. Man did not know how to make fire. But when he learned how to make fire, before making fire, the human beings were in the trees. We are tree dwellers. Because the trees were safer. If you want to run away from the wild animals, you stay in the trees. But they are not comfortable. The rain, the cold, the insects, they all eat you there. But when he invented fire, he was able to go from the trees and become on land here and light fire and scare away the wild animals. And also go in the caves. In the caves, because with fire now you can light, you can see, you can warm, you can chase the snakes out of the caves. So man came from the trees, where he was using arms mainly to move around, what is called brachiators. Those animals which move by their arms are called brachiators. He was able to come from being a brachiator to being a bipedal, an animal mainly walking on two legs. So therefore you can see now what is the stimulus that causes change in society. It is the development of science and technology. If science and technology advances, society will also change. Example, the invention of fire. How it revolutionized society from being tree dwellers to come ground-based dwellers and even cave dwellers. And you can go and quote other examples. The Europeans were able to conquer us because they had invented gunpowder. They had also learned how to make quinine, because initially they couldn't survive here because of the malaria. But when they learned how to make quinine from the South Americans, they were able now to use it to defend themselves against malaria. Then eventually they invented a train to be able to move, steam engine. So science was making them stronger and were becoming weaker. So therefore, in order to grasp the crucial issues about social change, you must understand that it is called the first law of sociology, which means the necessary conformity between the advance of science and concomitant changes in society. So therefore, I'm very glad that you have been exposed, and you can go example by example, example by example, example by example. Culture, even everything will change, even culture. Like our old culture of the Waganda, or the Wanyankole, the way they greet. You meet a Muganda woman, she kneels on the road, now, how would you do that when you are in cars? You wave, that's how you say, Jambo, Jambo, Jambo now. You don't have time for that elaborate, because you can see that elaborate way of greeting was based on pedestrian life. When people were walking on foot, that's how they could have time to do this. So therefore, I'm glad that you have been exposed to political economy from what Sembo was saying. Now, once you have covered that, then the next question is, what are the historical missions? What are the historical missions? We are here to do what? When we got independence, what was independence for? Independence should have had three aims. Number one, prosperity. Prosperity. Do you want us to be prosperous or not? If you want everybody to be prosperous, how would that be? Now, in order for us to be prosperous in a modern way, they must have told you that each adult person had to learn how to produce a good or a service and sell it. You are teachers, you are providing a service of teaching. And the more people that learn from you, the more useful you become. But like the Banyankore and the other tribes in the West, you have cows, you have banana plantations. So in order for you to be prosperous, you'll be able to sell the milk, sell the beef, sell the bananas, sell the other things you have. But when within Ankole, I have cows, my neighbor has cows. I have bananas, my neighbor has bananas. Therefore, my neighbor cannot buy from me, nor can I buy from him. Why? Because we have got similar products. So how shall we get prosperity? If Ankole is cut off alone, how shall we get prosperity? Who are the people who buy the products of the Banyankore? If you study carefully, you'll find that the people who buy those products are the people of Kampala. They are the ones who buy the milk, who buy the beef, who buy the bananas. So therefore, this means that the prosperity of the Banyankore depends more on Uganda than within the Banyankore alone. Within the Banyankore, where they contribute to one another's prosperity, that they produce the same product. We all produce milk, so there's a lot of milk in this area, and marketing is easier because it's a big quantity. Same with beef, same with bananas, same with tea, same with coffee. But in terms of buying from one another, it's not so much. So, that's why you now come to the principles of NRM. If my prosperity is depending on the people from Kampala to buy my milk, to buy my beef, to buy my bananas, that means I need Uganda. In addition to my own area, Uganda is very crucial for me. So that's why therefore, NRM, after analysis, we said, oh, you people are telling you about tribes, about religion, but this is a trap. You are going to die in poverty forever. What will help you to get out of poverty is Uganda. Because Uganda will help you to buy your products more than your own area. That's why therefore principle number one is patriotism. Love Uganda. Why love Uganda? Because you need it. And you can go and analyze, look at their choices. They all produce simsim. This one is producing simsim, the neighbor is producing simsim, this cannot buy from the other one, the other one cannot buy from the other one. So who buys the simsim? People of Kampala. If you go to Busoga, barikulima ebikaado. Bona barikulima ebikaado, Waiswa arikulima ebikaado, Omusogo Murara arikulima ebikaado. So who buys from the other one? So therefore, when you analyze, you'll find that our prosperity depends more on Uganda than our respective tribal areas. And if somebody comes and says, we are this tribe, we are this tribe, you should know that that person is an enemy of that tribe first and foremost. Because if that tribe was not part of Uganda, it would not be prosperous. So this is principle number one. I'm sure they explained this to you, but there's no harm in me as a summary repeating it. But secondly, as we settle down and produce more and more and more, we find that the internal market of Uganda is not enough. That's why we talk of the market of East Africa, the market of Africa. And that now takes us to principle number 2, Pan-Africanism. But how will you benefit from all this if you still remain in the old ways? Because I was born in Ntungamo, and by 1960, we were there in Ntungamo, only working for eating. We had cows, we had banana plantations, potatoes, and all that, but all of them for home consumption. Very little for the market.